in our lunchtime series of presentations from Hendricks Wealth and Estate Management. The topic for today is major life events and why you need an advisor for all of them. I am your host, Sean Hendricks, and I will be presenting this topic. I am a financial advisor and I am an estate planning attorney. I have all the licenses I need to do my job, and as you'll probably learn during this presentation, I like bad dad jokes, so I might make a few while we're presenting. The topic for this discussion today, from a personal note, we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about a lot of different major life events, but one of the things that I love most about this job, and sometimes one of the most challenging things about doing this job, is that we tend to work with people through some of the best times and some of the worst times of their lives. And sometimes we even share a little piece of those good times, and sometimes we share a little piece of those very difficult times. And so if you're going through some of these major life events, it can be very helpful to talk to a financial advisor, not only because they can give financial advice, but it can just be helpful to talk to someone who's gone through a lot of these events or helped people get through some of these events. And we can certainly help with the very, very serious financial ramifications of those events. So some of the events we're going to be talking today, I've kind of grouped them: marriage, divorce, having an inheritance or having a death in the family, the birth of a child, moving, or job-related changes like a new job or a promotion or job loss. So the first topic we're going to talk about is marriage. And according to a survey by SunTrust Bank, 35% of people blame finances for the stress in their relationships. 54% say that debt can be a reason for divorce. So just financial matters are a big issue in marriage. And a financial advisor can help because we can talk to you. We can help you create a financial plan. We can promote open communication about your finances. We can talk a little bit about maybe some hidden bad habits like debt or credit cards, and we can create combined financial goals. It's not uncommon when we're talking to people, especially new couples, that not everybody's the same, all right? A lot of times there will be one person in the couple who is, the very financially disciplined one, and sometimes there will be a person who's kind of more, kind of plays fast and loose with their finances. And having some of these conversations early on can be really, really helpful for a married couple to establish some common goals and to try to make it so that they see eye to eye early on in their relationship. And just as an example, I had worked with a client who was in his early 20s. He eventually got engaged and then got married. And after he was married, I had a first meeting with the married couple now as one. And we talked about the usual things like retirement planning, but now we were talking about both of them. They had a new goal of saving up for a house, so we built that into the plan. And by talking about these things early on, they had a workable plan, they had common financial goals, and they're on track as a couple. So I like to think that that might have helped them in some small way avoid possibly some of those stresses that we talked about a moment ago with being married and now having common financial goals. The next topic is divorce. And for people who are recently divorced, there are some things that come up. The planning for life as a single person, and one of the more common ones that I think people may not think about is once a married couple is divorced, they're now filing as a single person instead of filing married, and that can create some tax issues for them. So helping to think about that issue or not being surprised by that issue, and more importantly, when it comes to financial planning, is creating new retirement and savings goals for you based on one income and one financial plan. It's also fairly common in talking to people who are recently divorced that one spouse tends to be the one who handled all the financial stuff. And so there may be a need to learn about investing. It's my ex handled all of this is something we sometimes hear. Uh, it's also important to plan for asset or debt management and spending or budgeting as a single person. So a financial advisor can and should help a recently divorced person come up with an individualized plan while teaching about all these things, while teaching about investing and spending and retirement goals. And an example of this is I had a client who was recently divorced, and she was one of the ones who kind of said, my ex handled all of the finances, and she was scared. She was worried that as a result of the divorce, that after the retirement assets had been divided, that she would never be able to retire. And so we reviewed her situation. We looked at her income and the resources that were available to her, and we came up with a new plan to get her finances back on track. And now she's been doing great. She's been keeping up with it, and she's on track to be able to retire on her own terms. And I think that alleviated a lot of those fears that she came into that meeting with. So we were definitely able to help that client in that way. The third topic, which is actually kind of two topics built into one, is an inheritance or a death in the family. And to talk about inheritance first, studies suggest that more than 50% of inheritance are spent within 12 months. Studies also show that a new car tends to be purchased within 19 days of the receipt of an inheritance. Now, I'll put it on record, if anyone who inherits something from me buys a car within 19 days, they can guarantee that will be the most haunted car in the history of cars. I don't necessarily think that buying a car or burning through the inheritance within 12 months is even remotely a good idea under most circumstances. So a financial advisor can help to make a plan for how to include the inheritance as part of a long-term strategy. This includes advice on tax planning and helping to resolve issues like debt or spending in a responsible way. Because what we sometimes learn about, especially if we're not involved and we find out after the fact, is that people sometimes will inherit some sum of money, and their spending increases and they start using it. And the problem is that once they get used to that level of spending and the inheritance runs out, now they're living a lifestyle that they can't maintain on their own. So working with a financial advisor can help avoid that. And that's really, really super important. So working with a financial advisor early on, or once that inheritance comes in, can really, really help make sure that gets treated more like a lifetime asset than a short-term asset. The other part of this topic is when there's a death in the family. A death in the family is always difficult, right? No matter what the circumstances are. And this is one of those things that in meeting with clients, this is one of the harder meetings to have. I mean, your heart goes out. This is someone that you care about who's talking to you about someone passing away. And so the implications for the family are always very big. But when the person who passed away is either a breadwinner or the person who handled the finances, or if there's just some other type of serious financial impact from that death, a financial advisor can help to make sense of the new situation and try to create a new plan with all of the ramifications kind of built into the plan. And an example of this was we had clients who were a husband and wife, and we worked with them for many years. The husband passed away very sadly, and we knew that they had their estate plan set up, and we knew that their retirement accounts had beneficiaries named because we worked with them to make sure that those things were done, and that's super duper important. But we knew, because that work had been done in advance, that they were set up in that regard. So it was really just about helping our client, whose husband passed away, to help her navigate this extremely, extremely difficult time. In addition to helping with creating a new financial plan and making the financial plan about her, we also talked to her on a very regular basis to help, reassure her that she was going to be okay. And in some small way, I like to think that we helped her realize that because she was going to be okay, that it made that very difficult time at least a little bit easier. And even though that's one of the hardest things that we go through with clients, it's also at the end of the day, we feel good that we help people through some of these difficult times. The next life event, the birth of a child. And I don't need to cite any studies. I think it's generally understood that kids are expensive. After a child's born, there can be some big changes to the family dynamic. That can be changes in income. It's certainly going to involve changes in spending. And working with an advisor to come up with a plan for your new reality with a child is critical. This is also the best time to consider doing things like setting up college saving or setting up a wedding fund. The earlier you do these things, the better the plan can go. So getting these things set up front is super duper important. And there was an example that we worked with a married couple who had their first child. They both had good jobs. They both were earning pretty well. And after the birth of their child, their goal was for one parent to completely stop working for 6 to 12 months. And then the parent who stopped working was going to return to work, but only on a part-time basis. So this was a big change. Their income was going to be significantly impacted, and they were going to have more expenses. So once we kind of talked through things, we came up with a plan that would allow them to open up a college savings account for their child, would allow them to stay on track for their retirement, even with their new spending parameters. And I think it just helped them feel better. I mean, I think back, having a child for new parents, it's scary, right? It's a big change. So I like to think that by talking through some of those things and actually coming up with a plan, it made them feel like they were, that they were going to be able to do all the things that they wanted to do for their child. The next big event, moving. So moving is always stressful, right? It's expensive just to move, just between hiring movers, buying a house, selling a house, possibly making a down payment on a new house, and figuring out how you're going to be able to afford all these things can have a pretty big financial impact. By working with a financial advisor, you can help keep all of your goals in mind, still making sure that once you adapt to your new reality in your new home, that you're still on track. And we had an example of a client who was retired, who lived near our office, but they decided to move to another state. The houses that they were looking at, so they were moving out of what was their family home, and they were moving into a new home that was just the husband and wife, so they were empty nesters. And the home that they were looking at was probably a bit more than they needed. And it was probably something that they would have been more than they could reasonably use. So after we met and we talked about it, we helped them realize that it was actually a better move to move into a house that would not have required them to increase their spending in retirement. And this helped them in a couple ways. But most importantly, by not increasing their spending, it also helped to prevent them from taking more taxable distributions. So by going through the plan and helping them realize that the house that they needed and the house that they actually really wanted was different than what they thought they were going to get when they moved, really helped them. And they're still living in that house today, and they're very happy, by the way. The next category, and this is a couple of different topics, but it's all kind of lumped into this same like job-related category, is new job, job promotion, or job loss. And when you work with a financial advisor, they should always be thinking about what ifs, right? What if you lose your job? What if you get a raise? How are we going to handle that? And one of the things that we regularly talk to clients about is making sure that while you're working, that you have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund, and making sure that as time goes on, if you get new jobs or new promotions, that you're sharing that income proportionally with your retirement so that your retirement grows so that your retirement keeps up with your new level of income. And a good example of this is we had a client who worked with the same company for almost 20 years. The company downsized and his position was eliminated. Now, we had been working with him, and thankfully he had a 6 month emergency fund in place. So he was able to go out and find a new job. And within the time period, it actually didn't take him that long at all. I think it took him less than 3 months. But once he found a new job, this is one of those stories with a happy ending. He found a new job where he was actually making more than he was at his prior job. And so we reviewed his financial plan, and the first thing we did was we replenished his emergency fund, and then we helped him to increase his retirement contributions to make sure that his new contributions matched his new income level. So in each of these scenarios, in each of these examples, we've been able to help people through all of these different life events. And that's not all. There's lots of other life events that we can help with, but I only had time to talk about a few. But the takeaway from this is that it's best to plan in advance. Okay, so financial advisors can help with all these things, and we do help clients with these things every day. So if you or anyone you know is facing a major life event, I would encourage you to call us or to ask them to call us, because we can help you plan for all of these life events, for married life, single life, a newborn life, life at a new place, or life at a new job. We can even help you create an estate plan to make life easier for the people that you care about. So this is what we mean when we say that we want to be your lifetime financial partner. I know that we've gone a little while. I want to make sure that if there are any questions in the question and answer, which I'm trying to check right now, I don't see any. So I'll give it a moment, and if there are no questions, we can move on. But Dan or Tom, do you guys see anything? Do you guys see any questions or anything in the chat?
No questions yet.
Okay. I'll give it another 30 seconds or so. But I really hope that for anyone who's on here, or anyone who's watching this, that if you have any of these major life events, aside from even just necessarily the financial advice, is we help talk to people through these events all the time. So if you're going through one of these events, why not talk to someone who can help you through it? And that's what we're happy to do. So a question just came through. It says, my spouse was laid off due to current events. We have $250,000 in a nest egg, and I wanted to know what you suggest we do to prepare to evaluate our situation. So this is a question where I would strongly, strongly recommend that you make an appointment to speak with one of us, because the answer to your question really depends on what you need to live on, meaning how much of that $250,000 might need to be set aside as an emergency fund for you to live on until you find another job, and how much of that amount might be in different places, like in retirement accounts or in a bank account. So there's a lot of variables that could be built into there. I'm thankful that you have something set aside to help you get through this, hopefully, this unfortunately very difficult time, and I hope that everything's going to be okay. But yes, that situation is exactly the kind of situation where working with an advisor can help you take that amount that you have set aside and portion it out so that you can get through this and get to the other side. And hopefully, I'll hope it's a situation where, what seems like a difficult time now might turn into kind of a blessing in disguise. So it's an excellent question. I would strongly recommend calling and making an appointment so that we can review that with you. And I don't see anything else in the chat or in the Q&A. So I will take a moment to say thank you to anyone and one and all who attended. We will be having these events weekly, every Wednesday, these lunch sessions. So you can always go to our website, www.hendrickswealth.com/events, to see the upcoming events and to register for them. We also, in the not too distant future, we may move the time for these a little bit earlier, just to accommodate some folks who may be attending in other time zones. But for now, I would say check the event tab, sign up for any and all events that you would want to participate in. And please, 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 if you're facing one of these life events or any other life event that might be affecting you or your family, financially or otherwise, that please feel free to give us a call. And you can email us or call us at the number on your screen. If there's no other chat and no other questions, then that will be all for today. So we'll look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you very much for attending.